Hi, I'm Patty from Psychic Holistic Spotlight, and I'm here with
Shari Johnson.
Shari Johnson, and it's my pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm looking forward to talking to you. Why don't you give us a little thing about what your start was in this field?
I've been doing healing since I was a little girl. I called it color healing, but as I developed more, I studied many different religions, and I got into sort of like healing in the different religions. Psychic stuff I've always been doing. I think it comes kind of hand in hand with doing.
That is so funny because I was a big one when my kids were little. I did a lot of studying all the way as a kid, even the overlapping of the different religions.
It's beautiful.
Isn't
it's
it
awesome
beautiful
to see that. Yeah,
you just open
it opens you up more to everything, you know. And you. So yeah, I did a lot of that. You know, I got the whole "you're a witch" kind of stuff which I was fine with. I don't have any problem with that. Got into herbalism as well. Studied all that. That's why I have my garden. I grow that stuff.
Excellent. Excellent.
So I've been doing it my whole life in every aspect of it. Yeah.
Yes. Now, do you have mediumship?
I do. I do
mediumship too?
I do that too, yeah.
So you do a little bit of everything,
I do a little bit of everything. You know what it is? I think of it as, if it has to do with helping a person heal, I'll put it in my toolbox.
Yep.
So
I love that term because I always tell all my students the more tools in your toolbox, the better it is.
Right.
And it's one of my favorite expressions.
Because then you're not limiting yourself. It just can come through that way.
Perfect, yep. Yes.
So I still love to study it, and it's just part of me, you know.
I still run around and take classes. I said when I'm 80 years old, I'll still be taking classes on it because there is so much to learn. I'm just taking one of my students that I taught Reiki and Karuna Reiki is now teaching Karmic Reiki, and I'm taking Karmic Reiki 2 Sunday with her.
So fun.
And I said, woo woo, do you know what I mean?
I love teaching. That's so
well, the
fun.
one thing I'm going to do is I've put too many things on my plate, so I won't do the master, because if I do the master, they'll get me to teach.
Yes.
And I'd rather have her come in and teach.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to recognize
discernment.
Well, it's 2 things. Besides the fact that I need to cut stuff down, it's also a beautiful thing to realize that one of my students is better than I am.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
She definitely did this in a prior life. There's not a doubt in my mind. Yeah. She took the first class and it was like, what the heck?
Yeah, that's
you know
wonderful.
what I mean? And so I'm so excited that she's doing it at the shop.
Yeah. So many young kids coming up with it.
Oh my gosh,
too.
She was an EMT that got creamed in her, somebody hit the ambulance and she had to leave being an EMT and she's kind of figuring out what her place is. So she's taken a job that she's doing well at, but in the process of it, she's building up her clientele.
That's
so
awesome.
I'm so excited.
Still healing, it's just a different
path
down there.
Yeah,
that's wonderful. Yeah,
and she loves it. She loves it, and she went to a bunch of doctors because she wasn't feeling good, and it was a holistic doctor specialist that ended up figuring out for 4 years. They've been treating her for 3 different illnesses when it all turned out to be one thing wrong.
Oh,
and,
wow!
And they've got it just about done now.
I'm working on. I developed lupus in my later life, and I realized, and I'm healing it, but I realized that it's because being so clairsentient, my body doesn't know the difference between me picking it up from either the client or mediumship and it actually happening to me, so it's going to react to it. So I've tried to learn how to not either feel or sense it so much where I can get the knowledge of it without, you know, sometimes I can see it in front of me as well.
Yeah, isn't that excellent, excellent. I was born with these kidneys that are like, they call them piggyback kidneys now and stuff like that, and it's very rare. And I had an infection from 15 to 21, and then my father and mother got me to all like the best of the best, and they didn't seem to make any headway. And then this doctor on the road with my regular doctor ended up getting it so that it was good enough so I could have kids and at least have it more manageable.
Oh, that's
awesome. And I got to tell you something. It was so funny because I had a tumor on my ovary, and I was teaching hypnobirthing classes. Oh. And when I was teaching, you can't tell them, you got to wait until I'm done. And they were going to do a radical hysterectomy. And I said, but when can I go up the stairs? Because my old place had like 16. She goes, no, I've never said cancer to anybody that they said, when can I climb stairs again, you know? So they had the tumor board, and while they were doing it, I was doing all kinds of healing on myself.
Yeah, right.
And he goes, it's shrinking. And if nothing was in my blood, they'd let me do it.
Yep.
Not only did I get rid of that, it took like 10 months to get it completely dissolved, but not only did I get rid of that, the bad part of the kidney, the piggyback kidney, dissolved while I was healing.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah.
So it's amazing what you can do for yourself.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I've seen pretty amazing things doing healing with people, tumors, that kind of thing, immediately.
Yes.
Too, and even MRI, like looked at it with MRIs before and after.
And I use both the Reiki and healing through my hypnosis training because I'm a hypnotherapist. And I did it with both of them. I used a combination of both of them. And I found on the table a lot of times I take them on a clearing, a chakra clearing and everything, mentally. So we're doing mind, body, and spirit, doing all three of them. Isn't that cool?
It is. It's wonderful, yeah. The simplest thing I've been using lately with people, whether doing a reading or whatever, and they have a block, is what color is it, what texture is it, what shape is it, so they're observing it rather than feeling like...
we do that with the healing attunements and Reiki too.
Exactly, and then you put it outside of you and you disintegrate it.
Isn't that beautiful?
Fast, easy, they can be empowered to do it whenever they are feeling something moving.
I just did a Reiki masterclass for 6 people just not recently, and that is my favorite thing to teach them.
Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it? Yeah, I did one Saturday.
Yeah, isn't it fabulous? Yeah.
I just love seeing people glow in their own light, like, you know,
oh
like
my gosh,
find their own light.
They were exhausted at the end of it too, because you've got them doing all those attunements and everything else, but they're absolutely exhausted. But the calls and the, oh my gosh, I'm in such a better place, and it changed my whole energy, and isn't it fabulous? Yeah. And the healing attunements, I love doing them so much, and I didn't know if they worked or not, because I'm a skeptic. I'm a healthy skeptic.
Yeah, me too. I actually am too.
My husband was sitting on the end of the bed watching a football game, and I said, can I practice? Now, he didn't believe in any of this stuff, right? Can I practice my healing attunement? And he goes, okay, you know. So I did it, and all of a sudden he goes, I'm seeing all different colored lights. And I went, yes, yes, you know.
The first thing I did when I got mine was attune my husband so he could do it back to me. I was like, somebody else in this house has to have it. When my daughter was, she's just toddling, and I think I had it for, so I've had it for 4 years, my master's for 4 years at that point. And I said, when should I give her her first attunement? And she literally, I'm no joking, came in with my Reiki folder and said, Mama. And she came in and she handed it to me. I said, thank you. That was very clear.
Kathy on this show sent me a fabulous thing that has like kids Reiki. And my grandson, he was 4 years old, and I'm doing Reiki on myself for a sinus headache. And he goes, Grandma, I fix it. I'll fix it.
I love it.
And he put it, and I could feel the Reiki. His mother was attuned as a Reiki master, pregnant with him.
Oh yeah, I was when I was pregnant with her too.
Oh,
so she got it.
Isn't
you know,
that
she got it
fabulous?
like.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't Reiki. It was threefold flame healing. That's when I was pregnant with her when I
Isn't
got
that fabulous?
Yeah.
So I said to my husband, do you have anything that hurts? And he thinks, he doesn't believe in any of it. So he said, my thumb's driving me nuts. He had broken it and they had to reset it. So I turned around and he broke it off and put duct tape and put it back on together, and then it healed wrong. Then he had to have it broken. Yeah. So anyway, he goes and does it. And he goes, oh my gosh, it feels better.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So I let him, the cousins, I like to do around, between Christmas and New Year's, I like to do like a tween free Reiki, because I want the kids to start doing it.
Yeah, I get it.
And my grandkids were doing it, and he was bumming that I didn't have him involved.
Oh.
So I did the kid one that Kathy had given me. And if anybody ever needs it, I'll email it to you. I've saved the book the whole time, the email. And so I let him do it. And I said, I'll do Reiki 1, but Reiki 2, I figured he's too young to be able to be...
Understanding the...
Not even understanding it, but being able to respect the symbols.
Yes, yeah.
So one day he woke up and he drew the long distance symbol.
Awesome.
The power symbol. And half of a karuna symbol, or a karuna symbol, and 2/3 of the long distance symbol.
And they're like,
he said to me, I dreamt of it, Grandma.
Yeah.
So I said, what the heck?
Yep,
you
there
can
you
do
go.
Reiki 2. And then I let him take Reiki 3 with the tweens, but he was too silly with it. So I wouldn't let. I told him he had to be 18 for Reiki Master.
Yeah,
But I want these.
My
kids
daughters
to
have 1 and 2. They're 20 and 24, and I'm going to tell. They have to come to me if they want their masters. You know.
Oh yeah, all 3 of mine ended up Reiki Masters, but they chose. They
have to choose it. I'm not going to.
In fact, I wasn't going to teach, and my middle daughter and one of my clients formed a conspiracy against me and decided I was teaching whether I wanted to or not.
You're going to teach it.
Yeah, so I was going to do Reiki 1 and 2 and then send them to my Reiki Master for Masters.
Yeah.
And then they waited till they got that, and then they nagged me till I did the rest, you know.
It's fun. It's fun to see the next generation come up and do it.
But the kids, too, they're fabulous. And I've had grandmothers of the kids that I taught that said, oh my gosh, it works.
Yeah, yeah. My mom was very intuitive. I actually just recently found out my father's side was also very intuitive. You know when they put the names in the Bible of the children that are born, you know where his was? It was in a palm reading book. My cousin just recently got it when her mom died, and they opened it up and it was a palm reading book and all his kids' names were in the palm. I said, well, then it's on the other side too, isn't it? So my great grandmother, she passed when my mother was pregnant with me for about 3 months, but she was very intuitive, wasn't afraid of it, spoke up about it. My grandma had it too, but I think that sometimes it can make you too empathic and you go down like more of a
Well, and it's different personalities.
Yeah, it is. And then my mom had it. She was a little bit afraid of it because when she got a vision or something, she always thought she knew better after she got older, but she always thought she made it happen.
Well, you know what my mom had is, I think there was a little bit of Indian in us.
Yeah.
It was one of those hidden affairs that they made somebody else marry somebody so you didn't know about.
Didn't know what happened.
But until I came out with black hair and reddish skin,
right.
You know what I mean?
Which they always hide those. They try to. It always comes out though, doesn't it?
But I swear, I said, I got a book and I showed my underlined stuff to show my mother. I think she came through with the ability to cross people over. So she saw death, and it made her, she was kind of a homebody to begin with. Like, she would go to the store and everything, but I think it made her keep her circle very small because she was afraid of it. But she had it. But I didn't realize that my father had it until he passed, because he had like 168 IQ, so everything was diagnosed as smart.
Right, and it was
intelligence.
Intuition and claircognizance.
I thought afterwards a lot of things, like he had 4 patents and this, that, and the other thing. Some of it you have to have a little more than intuition, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then a lot of things where he just knew stuff was going to happen, I just thought, because he's brilliant and he knows it's going to happen. And so I didn't realize until my father started working with me from the other side that he had it too.
Super strong, yeah. My mom was very happy to see that I wasn't afraid of it. She said the first time I saw you do it, we were going to Cape, and remember how it was a Ford Fairmont, the cars were much bigger, and I was like 5 years old, so I couldn't even see above the windows. And she said, you were super anxious, and then all of a sudden you screamed out, look out for the hole, and you couldn't see any hole, and my dad backed into a hole, and she realized at that point that I was getting it precognitively.
Oh, I had a better one. I had a happier one for the one I had with my parents, like shaking their head, wondering what the heck. We went to New Hampshire for the very first time, and I turned to my mom and dad. I said to my dad, can you go down that street, Dad? Can you go down that street? He goes, why? And I said, because there's a cow on the top of a building, and we can make our own sundaes. So they turned, and I watched the two of them look at each other like, there was the cow on the top of the building.
How innocent too, how
we
great.
make our own symbols. I was 5 years old, and I knew.
It's about that, right?
Isn't that cool?
Like, it's really
you
neat.
knew the whole. So mine had a little happier ending than yours. I got a Sunday.
It did. But that was funny that she said that's the first time I realized. She said there were little things before that, but that's the first time you. And then another story. I was about 6, and I you know when you leave the house and you're not supposed to. I had my onesie on, and I traveled about a mile and a half. I grew up in Housneck in Quincy, so it's a peninsula. But it was about a mile and a half away from my house.
Wow.
Right? So then I realized I didn't know where I was. I just was walking, you know, and I had a woman come, and she was a big black woman. She had a long dress on. She had an apron on, and I said, I think I'm lost. And she said, she said, no, I know where you live, honey. And I said, okay. And she said, let's go. And she walked me home. And my mom came out. She's like, where were you? And I said, oh, she brought me home. And she said there was nobody there. When I correlated, I mean, I remember her. I remember the woman. I remember she was very sweet, very loving, very protective. And then later, before my mom passed, I said, remember that time? And she goes, yeah, there was no woman with you. She goes, not that I could see, at least. That's what she said, not that I could see, at least. But the woman brought me all the way back home. Isn't that funny?
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And I loved it. I have one of my granddaughters, I had her crossing people over at 2.5, 3 years old.
Yeah.
And then I found out the grandson had some abilities, and I said to him, do you want me to teach you how to do that like I taught your sister? And he goes, no, Grandma. I turn on the light and I don't have to see them. So it was not his cup of tea at all.
Funny.
Yeah, it's not his cup of tea.
I did a bit of a skip. I remember when I was a little girl and I could feel that people wanted to, you know, get me at night when I turned the light off. But I always felt this one person's holding them back. I really did. So I got a little bit afraid of it when I was young.
Yeah.
And then
I had no fear. Whatever was watching over me must have kept things tight, because I never had any fear.
I think it was Hades, honestly, that used to keep them back, to tell you the truth. That's what I think, because I remember the presence of a male that was like, knew how to keep them back. But it came back full force when I was 22, like the mediumship part of it. I was doing all the psychic stuff before that, but the mediumship just came back. I went, oh, that's what I'm doing.
I blocked off the mediumship when I was 13. I looked up the staircase when junior high school was 7th and 8th, not middle school.
Yeah.
And I looked up and I was so blown away and so touched. All the loved ones from the 7th graders going with them because they were scared the first day of school. And I turned to my friends and I told them, and they all looked at me like, what? Like I had 3 heads and a tail?
Yeah.
And I shut it off that moment. And then 2 weeks after.
Because of the pressure.
Yeah. I don't really care what people think, so I was surprised I did that.
Yeah.
But I think it was my first realization that everybody didn't see what I saw.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks after I was 18, I always joke about this. Probably everybody's heard this story a million times, but 2 weeks after I graduated from high school, a big giant blackbird flew into my windshield and got caught in my windshield wipers during a rainstorm. I said, I have to do everything dramatic. And I laughed. I went into work, and this guy that I had become good friends with, he turned to me and said, yes, you're opening back up. You're opening back up.
They don't do it softly, do they? It's got to be some dramatic thing that happens. It's
little blood and guts there. That was a little bit more than I wanted, but let me tell you. But and I love animals and birds and everything. So now I'm crying over the animal, you know, the bird. But it was so funny when I came all upset and I said, David, he goes to me, you're opening up. And it was so funny because about a week later, they had a robbery there. And they asked me if I had seen the van, and I said to him, no, I didn't when I came in. So then I called up security, and I said to him, his name was Mr. Sears, and it was the outlet company, and I thought that was funny, because, you know. But I called up, and I said, do you want the license plate? And he said to me, how do you have the license plate if you didn't see the van? I said, I must have seen the van and not realized it. So he's really skeptical about this. Right. They caught the van because the outlet company had shirts like $50, $75, like in the 70s, the late 70s, you know what I mean? Yeah. So 2 guys came in and took like arms full and ran into the van and went flying away. So they got back all the shirts and everything.
Oh,
so he goes, thank you. I was wondering how you could remember the license plate when you didn't remember you saw the van. And I said, oh, yeah. And the guy, David, goes, yes. He was so happy. Right. So happy. We never talked holistics. We just hung out at lunch. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we never
It's good to have friends like that, though, that just hold space and you don't have to talk about it.
You don't have to. You just, you're just there with it. So, isn't it great when we have these stories growing up?
Yes.
My brother had the imaginary friends, but I had cool parents, so they didn't squish it. It sounds like you did, too.
Yeah, my mom was fine with it,
So a table setting was set for it. And then he outgrew the imaginary friend, and he threw it out the car window and said, the imaginary friend's now gone after it ate meals with us for like a year and a half.
How old was he when that happened?
It was probably like 6 or 7.
Oh, right. It wasn't the middle school try to squish a thing.
No. He was just 6 or 7, and he was tired of the whole imaginary friend thing, I guess, or whatever they were working with together with him.
Right, I remember, and they used to come, even in middle school, they used to come and tell me their whole life story in the first 5 minutes.
Yes,
you know, that you meet them, and it was like, okay, so I was even playing that role in that. And, you know, you did have some people make fun of you, but I'm like, I'm fine with what I am.
I was very blessed with not caring what people thought.
Yeah, it is a blessing.
So that's why I was surprised I closed it off when I was 13, because I really never cared what people thought.
Yeah, it might have been for other reasons, and that was just the...
Yeah, I do know, I was lucky enough to have a dad that told me I was like perfect, so I believed I was perfect, so it was no problem.
Yeah,
you know?
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
It's nice to have those.
Plus with that is really helps out a lot.
I'm pretty sure my stepdad was a saint incarnate,
Yes.
I'm not even joking, I really think he was too. So, yeah.
So I got to tell you, so now what do you, when your clients come to you, what do they usually come to you for?
Usually they're having some kind of a, something going on, you know, in their lives.
Now, do you read tarot?
I do. I don't use it that often. If I'm trying to, I mean, I'm pretty good at staying objective, and I'm pretty good at channeling whatever is coming through. Sometimes I use the cards
as a diversion, but I'm really reading their energies. When I first read them, I read them.
Yeah.
But for the last probably 15, 20 years, it's just more a diversion.
One of my friends was like, "Oh, you're psychic. I just read cards." I'm like, "What's the difference?" And then she like, and I said, "Oh, yeah, I know them, but I don't really read
But one of the things I do like is sometimes when you're given a reading and then I look down, I see something I missed.
Yes, absolutely. That's a nice way to do it too. Yeah. Because it does, sometimes you see a little thing on the card that, oh yeah, this, or that you got it, and you know how it happens so fast, you get things so fast that you actually,
Excellent. Now, do you do Reiki?
I do Reiki too, no matter what. Like, so what happens in a typical reading is I'll connect to their guides, my guides, and then they usually go in and see what isn't working for them, and I'll talk about like something like a block or whatever. We'll talk about that, then we kind of, you know, talk about how they can change their perception with certain things in their life, how it can work for them rather than not work for them, you know, and then then I usually go into the future. Sometimes they'll go into the past. The guides will go into the past and say, at this date, this time, this happened. You're holding on to it. You know how that kind of thing. So,
absolutely.
And because you know because they're the ones creating their future, so I try to show them, you know, the best future that they can actually have. You know, but I tell them that too. Like, you have to do these things.
But it's got the power of choice. Is such people don't accept that you have to see what they choose or the man in their life chooses.
Exactly. Sometimes it has to do with other people, their children. You know, that's their lesson. That might be the child's lesson.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
So, do you teach classes at all?
I do.
Yeah. What kind of classes do you teach?
Psychic development, mediumship. There's a class called soul purpose. Basically, it's not soul. It's called Soul Shine, but it's basically soul purpose.
Excellent.
Stuff. Becoming a spiritual master. I do most, you know, the past life stuff. I do all. I kind of, like I say, I do all of it. You know, if I get guided to teach something.
Yeah, very similar to my place.
Yeah.
And where is your place located?
I work out of my own house.
Oh, do you?
In Pawtucket, but I do teach at Women of Wisdom in Easton, and I read there every couple weeks too, just to get out of my own. You know,
get out of your own place.
Because when you're at home all the time, it's kind of like, oh, I want to go out somewhere and do it.
Started it at the house, but at the time I had the teenagers and the dogs and everything. And it kept getting bigger. And my husband was creeped out about it sometimes. You know?
My husband's fine with it.
So. Oh, your husband's fine. Mine wasn't.
As long as every once in a while I throw him a bone and do a Reiki treatment on him.
But one of the things that happened one time, I called him up. It was April Fool's Day, and I had all the people come into my house that night, and we had like snow. And I looked at him, and I was Nextel, so that's how many years ago. I'm on a Nextel, and I said, I got 13 robins sitting in a triangle staring at me, standing in the snow. And he goes, you're crazy, you're crazy. So I eventually had to get out of the car, and I didn't want to make them fly away because I thought it was really cool. And I had to go in the house, start supper, because at 7:30 I had all these people coming, conversion on my house. And all of a sudden I look out the back window, the triangle of robins have hopped, and they're now in the back window staring at me. So my husband comes home, I said, I'm not crazy, look out the window. Yeah. He goes, you are crazy, and he looks out the window and he goes, just as he looked out the window, like probably 500 starlings landed on the ground, he goes to me, if the blackbirds come, I'm out of here. So all of a sudden, just as he said that, all the blackbirds came, and he's running from window to window. Not one neighbor has anybody. Robins are a huge sign for me that my business is moving into another level. So, and the other birds just I like them all anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's sitting there. He's like freaking out. 5 minutes before all the people were coming, you heard this noise, and their wings, they all lifted at the same time. We're running around the house looking, and nobody else's yards have one bird footprint but ours.
That's awesome.
And you know, 3 weeks later, I got a call from a friend in Las Vegas that told me her old office that had really good energy had opened up. She had Cruz Brothers. She did cool. And then the girl that worked downstairs in a gym, a personal trainer, she used that office to interview her personal trainer. She said, it's got fabulous energy.
Oh, that's wonderful.
You might want to go there. Now, I had never told her I might want to go get my office, right? Yeah. My husband goes, I'll pay for it. If you get these people out of the house, I will pay for everything. So awesome. It was like...
They helped you out.
It did help me out.
Fly away to a different place.
Fly away. And it was so funny because shortly after that, I had a kitchen witching woman that did the kitchen witching, telling you what the herbs and what they did for you. She said, can we go out in your yard because you have some strange stuff growing, because it used to be a farm, you know? So we go out, and all the neighbors are out working on the yard because this was nicer. This was shortly before I moved in. I already had the place, but I was moving in. And my husband always went up to his shop next to another, and they all played and worked on Harley Davidsons and that kind of stuff. And so I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden she says, look, it's that fancy lettuce that they put in the nice restaurants at Federal Hill. You know, the purple lettuce that they only did on Federal Hill back then, you know? And all of a sudden, out of 11 people, 8 bent over, grabbed a hunk of lettuce and started chewing on it. So even my not nosy neighbors were going. So I called my husband. I said, you might want to stay at the shop till about 1:30 because the whole neighborhood is talking because everybody was eating our grass. And
that's perfect. That looks like a party at my house. You can have that. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So it was absolutely fabulous.
That's great.
So So our beginnings is sometimes so excited, and it's so beautiful how Spirit leads us into what we're doing.
Oh, absolutely. And if you're listening, it's much easier than if you're resisting. Yeah.
So what's a way for people to be able to reach you?
If they want to go Sacred Journeys and Shari
Johnson. Is it on Facebook?
Yes, Reverend Shari Johnson.
Reverend Shari Johnson. Okay.
Yeah, I'm that.
Do you marry people?
I used to. I don't do it anymore. I do more of the funeral wake kind of thing.
Oh, do you?
It just so happens that that's the way it goes. Yeah. You know? I know that's like just. I guess it's just what I do.
I get it. Unfortunately, I get it.
I know.
It just happens.
I will. I mean, I won't say no, but I used to do it. I just don't.
I stopped doing it too, but every once in a while I get asked if somebody tells me that they found out I did it and I didn't advertise it. So
like you said, you have to decide what you want. To put your energy into and what you don't. And it's okay that you have it all, but you gotta,
So,
but that's fine. Sacred Journeys.
Sacred
Pawtucket.
Journeys.
I'm in Pawtucket. Yeah.
Pawtucket, excellent.
Yeah,
and so, one of the other things that I just was wondering is, are you planning on adding any new things to your repertoire?
I always am open to new things. Usually I channel something if they're channeling. I do painting too, so I'm kind of going to mix those. That's the
Oh my God, I love it. I have a gentleman at my shop that we actually took shamanic apprenticeship program with it. I was actually very Wiccan, and I found I abused it a little bit, so I kind of went a little the shaman type of thing. Yeah. And I got to tell you,
shaman healing, that's kind of what I'm using it.
Okay,
getting.
But the kid that I was in, the shamanic healing, he actually ended up living with us for a while. And my husband and I, and he sends you on a little journey, and then he has you pick up the paintbrush.
Yeah, see, it's
so we all have different paintings, not like the ones where you just paint.
Right.
And I got to tell you something, what an outlet that is.
Oh, so that's a good confirmation, because it's just.
Isn't that great?
Because I do paint nights, but I like to just do it for fun. But I think that they're telling me, you know, and that's lovely
try that, because I'm telling you, I think you'd be. I'm getting that. I feel that you'd be so good at that.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And it is. We do it like once a year, where I think they would probably like it more often, but I don't have the time to do it. But once a year, and I got to tell you something, the room fills up. And every year we have to add extra tables.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
You know, word of mouth has it very exciting.
I just think it's good. It's okay to merge everything. You know, it's okay to merge it all.
And I love the fact the tools in your toolbox. That must be my favorite saying to my students.
Yeah.
And when you're teaching psychic development, What is the, what are some of the things that you bring up in that?
Mostly, it depends on which, I do psychic development 1, psychic development 2, but mostly I teach how they're going to get it, and then I really kind of push my students a little bit too. Because you know when you can tell they're getting something but they're not saying it, like it backs up a little bit, and I'll say, just go ahead and say it. Yeah, just go ahead and say it. You're all here for, I try to be nice about, you're all here for just learning, and that's okay. So I really adjust it a bit depending on what the students are like.
I used to do like a 6-week class, and I had to switch it. Because when I did the 6-week class, I had